Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Stephanie McPhail, the co-founder of Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, that she co-leads with her husband, David, delivering toxic relationship recovery coaching to clients worldwide. Drawing from her years of education, research, training, and personal battles breaking free from unhealthy relationship cycles, she offers private Zoom sessions, actionable exercises, and accountability to spark real change. Their husband-wife duo provides a balanced male-female lens through one-on-one guidance, membership communities, and self-paced courses as praised by many of their clients. With that being said, Stephanie, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Hey, Milan, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to share my story and maybe help some other people on their journey as well.
I love it. Beautiful. I'm excited for the conversation. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into it. What I love to do at the beginning of every single episode is a bit of traveling back in time. So before you even had this company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the business?
So I was a teacher for 18 years. There was some overlap in there, but I did teach for a very long time, certified K through 12 health educator, and I'm a certified crisis counselor as well. So that was something that I was always very passionate about, is helping others and to, just help them to build their life. The other side of the coin is that I was also really good at choosing really shitty partners and then trying really hard to make those relationships work. And I realized as I was going through my own healing journey that I was not the only professional that was very successful in their life and not very successful when it came to their relationship. So once I got out of the other side, I took some time. I went through depression. Everything went really bad. And I said, what is the thing that is in common with all of these bad relationships in my life? And that was me. And if I can look at what I've done to get into these patterns over and over again, maybe I can share those lessons with other people so that they too can heal and create something better for themselves. So that's really what got me into it. I said, I need to figure this out. I need to get really down in there, down and dirty, like what is it that caused all of this? And I hired a bunch of coaches, I went to therapy, I did all those things, and I really figured out what I was doing, where the patterns were repeating themselves. And I said, okay, I have to share this with other people. And so I started my business back in 2014, and made it my full-time gig in 2020. And it's been an amazing journey with my husband, who I would have never imagined that I would have a partner that would be helping me to help other women to heal. But here we are, we've been doing this for a few years now. And we just love being able to really change people's lives and create some major change. Because in my world, the more that we can help each other, the better the world is. And so I think that this is a really great gift to be able to share my pain with others.
I love that though. Obviously, there was some period of time where there was a tremendous amount of self-awareness that you had for yourself, because this is the kind of thought process that you don't really see every day and with the majority of people. So hats off to you for recognizing that, okay, well, this is actually me and I need to change something, right? Typically,
Mhm.
what you see people do is just blaming others. That's
And
it.
it's very empowering to say, oh, wait, I did this. Like, again, it's not my fault what they did, what happened, but I was the common denominator. And to me, I think that's a very empowering place because that means you can fix it and you can change. If it's everybody else's fault, then you can't do anything. You're like, it's just there's nothing you can do. But when it's you, you can say, okay, I have the power. I can do something different. I can choose to create something new for myself. And that is where the beauty of all of the pain
Mm.
lies because you really can grow out of it.
Yeah, this is what taking ownership and accountability actually looks like in real life. So I love that. Beautiful. Stephanie, there's a lot more that I want to talk about. I'm pretty sure that you, as anybody else in business and entrepreneurship, the journey is never linear in business, right? So there's a lot of pivoting, adjusting along the way. I'm sure that's the case with you as well. So we're going to talk about though, like where this journey overall got you and what the business looks like for you guys today. Now, my goal in this part of the podcast is really build some clarity for the audience in terms of who is it exactly that you're trying to help right now? And also, what are the core offerings that you have in place for your clients? So tell us all about that.
Sure. Well, the quickie version is I definitely agree. I think that there is this roller coaster of a ride when it comes to entrepreneurship, but I also think that when you're super passionate about what it is that you do, it's not a if I figure it out, it's a when I figure it out. And so you just have to keep coming back. It's like the one of those like punching bags where it falls down and it comes back up. That's kind of what you have to do with entrepreneurship. But you don't want to keep doing the same thing because that not is not going to work. You have to make sure that you switch it up. And so you try from different angles and you try to do different things. And that's definitely where we have been on our journey. And so, we've had the ups and downs. Like when I first started, I was like, let me charge just a little bit, let me do a lot of bunch of free stuff. And I did that. And then I started to build and grow. And 2020 up to 2023 was really our heyday. And I can honestly say we're working to go back towards that because we are definitely in a low point now for ourselves in our business. Um, but it was, it's really because the market changes, and then you have to figure out, okay, how have I changed too much where the market has changed, and then come somewhere in between. And so sometimes that's difficult to figure that out, especially when you are a small business. Like for us, it's a husband and wife team. You really have to really rely on your own resources and your ability to figure that out. As we deal with clients, we actually do one-on-one, but our big model is the group model, and to be able to have a 6-week program, a 12-week program, and then of course we offer the bigger programs of 6 months and longer for those people that really want to really dive in and to be able to change their lives. Our main focus is middle-aged women. It's really been our focus for pretty much our whole career doing this, because we found there's like this magical thing where I used to say it was about 35, now I would say it's 40, but it's the 40-year-old or 40-year-old to 60-year-old professional woman who's been very successful in her life. She has a career that makes good money. She knows how to get things done, but because of her perseverance in her career, she doesn't know when to let go when it comes to relationships. So she's like a pit bull. She holds on too long to things that are not working out for her. She's afraid that if she lets go, she's going to be considered a failure. So she tries too hard. She loses herself. She does everything in her possible, abilities to make her relationship work, even though it's actually killing her. And realistically, it is because we know that stress and your health are very highly correlated. So those women. And sometimes it's hard for us to ask for help. And so sometimes that's a hard population to go after because you're like, hey, I can do it. I don't need anyone to help me. I could figure it out. And I was one of those people. But I also know that there gets to be a point where you're in a low point in your life where you're like, you know what? I don't know what to do because whatever I've done hasn't worked. And I know that I need to do something different. And that means I need to hire a coach. And that's where that place is, that beautiful place is where our clients come in, where they thought that. We're no longer thinking about whether or not they should. They know they need to. Now they just have to have the right fit in order to figure out like what changes they need to make and really keep them accountable to the new goals that they're creating for themselves.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny though, because a lot of times people are justifying not doing so just through like the lenses of the financial side of everything, right? They feel like somehow this is going to set me back on my journey, but it's quite the opposite though. Like the majority of times people are just asking themselves like, why haven't I done it sooner though? Like,
We literally had a client of ours that was making like $70,000 a year. She was single and she was like, and she was very smart, but she was like stalking her ex. She was driving by his house, all these things that in her normal world, which she would never do. And here she
mhm.
was, she had been obsessed about this guy. And so she finally listened to us. And as she started working through things, she was like, this isn't just relationships. This is my business. This is other areas of my life where I am allowing people to treat me badly and I'm sticking around. And she realized that the company she was working for was taking advantage of her. And she just decided I'm going to put out for a potential job opening in San Diego. And she got it. It tripled her salary overnight.
Oh,
They
wow.
moved her cross country, and she's now like a assistant, not even manager, but assistant like CEO of some big banking company. I mean, she is like high up there, and that would have never happened had she not made the decision to work on her relationship. So that's something that's really interesting. People come in at the end of relationships, whether they're looking to leave or they've left and they feel lost and they're not sure what to do, but they come to us for that. And then because we come from a very holistic perspective, all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, it's my family relationships, it's my friendships, it's my health, it is my job, my business, and they start realizing it's all of these other things, and they start living a life that they didn't think was possible, or they thought they were asking too much for. And that's the beauty of this, is it just opens up like a flower all the possibilities. And 100%, that money that you invest, the ROI is so much bigger than whatever you initially put in.
Yeah, I feel like this is the absolutely agree though. I feel like every single aspect of life can be improved if we actually learn enough about ourselves. I had a chance to work with a gentleman a couple of years ago, which was basically a coaching offer for business owners who had everything in life. They were doing great, but what was happening behind shut door, that's a different story, right? And thanks to him, like I realized with this sort of work how deep it actually goes though. Like this is not what you do. It's not about the surface level stuff. It's really going deeper and identifying those underlying issues that are actually holding me back from taking a step towards the right direction. So I have a huge admiration for your field and what you do. So I love that. We could be talking a lot about this, but I'm gonna move on to something else though, because Stephanie, you mentioned one thing that is very different to a lot of people in your industry, and that is the fact that you basically went from the one-on-one coaching that used to be the priority to now focusing mostly on the group coaching. Now, I assume, well, I think that I pretty much know why that is, but I want to share your thought process on this with our audience, just to maybe get a little bit of an inspiration in terms of what made you pivot.
So maybe I misspoke. I never really started with one-on-one. I was
Mhm.
actually always wanted the group model, and I knew that because I knew I had friends of mine that were very successful coaches. That group was the one to many is the best way of doing it. You and I both know. The one-on-one we do is more of like for the higher end clients that don't want to be bothered with anybody else. So that's where we have that kind of aspect. But the group coaching really is hands down the best, because if you can help, and we do it kind of like a hybrid, so it is a little bit different from what a lot of people do, where we have our, like, again, our 6 week or our 12 week program, or the 6 month program, and we do that where we have group coaching calls, we have curriculum for them to go through on their own, and then they can ask whatever questions, unlimited coaching kind of in the group. But because we also work on mindset, we still do offer one-on-ones, and I'd also do weekly accountability. And I love those quick check-ins, because I can do a 15-minute check-in and I can have 20 clients. 15 minutes is not the end of the world. It doesn't take that long to do that. And then like my husband will do something called Psyche, which helps with a high-speed mindset. So the subconscious beliefs that you have about change, he can help change those beliefs in one session. So that 1 hour session can literally change someone overnight with how they're, how stuck they feel. And so we really have found that with our clientele, the hybrid model is the best. We will do the one-on-one, but really the group and the way we have it set up to us is the best for our clientele.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you naturally have the relationship towards something like this because a ton of people in your industry are absolutely struggling with getting their way into group coaching. But really, it's not just about like it's a beautiful thing because of the impact and them having the chance to see other people going through the same thing
Yes.
and that sense of belonging. But also, it makes a lot of sense from the business perspective, right? And now. I know this is a completely different topic though, but at the end of the day, that's who you are, right? You're a
Yeah.
business owner. So there is a completely different set of questions that you need to be asking yourself on a daily basis. And eventually, this is the most scalable way for you to go with the company. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I'm going to jump in there really quick. I think the only thing we kind of go back and forth on is that when I started my business, it was I'm going blank on what it's called, but it was a start and finish. 6 weeks, that's it, done. And then you wait a week, 2 weeks or whatever, then you have your new group in. We've now created an evergreen program where people can come in at any time. I almost feel, I keep having this feeling, I want to go back to the 6 week cut and then start a new group, as much as it's more difficult when you're constantly looking for those new people, but there is something about having that, ooh, if I don't make it into this next group, I'm not going to make it into the program. And so I think there is something to be said about that, but I haven't made the decision. I'm just kind of like, I'm going back to that because that did work really well for a long time, and getting people to take action so they can't say, I'll do it in a month. And you're like, but you're going to waste a lot of time if you wait a month. But now if it's like, oh, but then you're going to have to wait another, 8 weeks to, okay, that's sometimes it's a little bit different and pushes them a little bit more.
yeah. This is what I love about business, though. We could be having these conversations after you run into business for like 28 years, and you would still find a couple of things where you'd be like, you know what, I haven't really figured that one out yet. Like
Hmm.
there's still something to talk about. Now, Stephanie, though, let's talk about the back end side of the business. Obviously, we know that in order to succeed with something like this, you really have to have like a good client acquisition system in place. So I'm curious, what is it that's happening on the front of marketing for you, or maybe specifically generating those contacts and leads to have the ability to onboard new clients and keep changing lives?
So, a lot of coming on podcasts. I think podcast is a great way of getting people, and I have my own podcast as well, Toxic Love Transformation. When you get people to hear your story and get out there in front of people, podcast is who's listening. The people that want the help are the ones listening to podcasts, so that's obviously great. Summits is another way. We also have a Facebook group that has 15,000 people, and then ads. You do. I don't do the ads. My husband is in charge of all that. But having ads where the ROI, like we've had times where the ROI was 17x and sometimes it's 3x, and again, it depends. It's the algorithm of Facebook. We did try Google, hated it. It's way too expensive. And we had a coach that helped us through it. It still just wasn't worth it. Facebook was really the better marketing system for us. And of course, email marketing, that's another one. And then just regular TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we are everywhere, putting out regular content. And and that's another tweak I think I'm working on as well is I become more of a sending out like fun or emotional stuff. And I have to remind myself to go back to what are the actual steps people need to take in order to heal. And I get sucked into the fun stuff. You're like, no, I actually have to give them actual tools for them to use. But again, that's just the learning as you get into your routines and doing all that. But I think that combination together really helps bring new people and new eyes onto the business.
Yeah, I was just about to say it definitely is a learning curve though, but it looks like this is a beautiful combination of you building the front of like the organic side of everything, but also leveraging on the potential of ads. Now, just with you describing the platforms that you've tried, I would agree 100%. Meta is the place for you to be. Now, when it comes to Google and LinkedIn, yeah, the pricing is going to be a little bit less attractive there. But yeah, when it comes to this though, I'm also curious. There's a lot of people who are on the fence of whether they should pivot to maybe running a little bit of ads, maybe trying this way of getting leads instead of just, trying to build up that organic and just push a ton of content. Looking back though, what would you say was the pivotal moment for you where you basically like said, okay, I'm done. I need to try this and I'm gonna see for myself.
I think that well, I'm going to say that we stopped ads for a while because we were not making the money. But I will say that I think ads are super important to have paid along with the others. And I know some people completely are organic and all the power to them. Wonderful. But there's something about having the right message when you're super clear on your avatar. It makes it so much easier. And I mean, and I can say that I am the most clear about my avatar now after doing this for 12 years. I could not have as clearly said who I help and what I do. I actually went to a meeting and they were asking people to describe their avatar, and people were like, I'd help anybody. I would do that. And I'm like, yeah, we all want to help everybody, but what's your avatar? I was trying to explain to them. And then somebody called on me and I explained who I was looking for. And they're like, wow, you really know. And I'm like, yeah, but it was like, even like 6 months ago, I was like, it clicked and suddenly it was easier, even easier than it had ever been before. So if anybody's struggling and you're thinking about ads and all that, really, really take the time that all of the coaches tell you to take and getting super clear about your avatar, really get into the psychology, who they listen to, what they pay attention to, all of that, and it'll make your ads really worth spending the money on.
Absolutely. This is a great point, though. And I would definitely emphasize that this actually goes for both the organic side, but also the paid side of everything. And this goes for anybody also listening to this podcast right now, though. I can promise you one thing, especially if you get yourself into the world of high ticket and you have a high ticket offer and you're trying to communicate with your audience, most of the time when the ads are not performing, I can promise you it's not going to be about the audience. It's not going to be about the targeting or the offer itself. It's just about the inability to communicate it in the right way. Right. So if I cannot really have this level of transparency that you, Stephanie, just talked about, I'm not going to be able to literally speak their language,
Yeah.
right? And get in front of the right people at the right time. So,
Mhm.
yeah, th this was a great point, though. I love it. Did you go for some outside help in terms of figuring out the messaging, or have you just spent enough time for you so that you can make those tweaks here and there and just figure it out that way?
We have spent a lot of money in coaching. We have spent a lot of money getting help because we are not experts in this. And this is something that we tell our clients all the time. Your expertise is not in creating healthy relationships, and that's okay. That's our expertise. Our expertise was not business. That's why we had to get help in figuring that out. But even with spending all that money that we did in investing into ourselves and our business, it still was, let's try it from this angle. Let's try this. Let's, and again, just testing. I sometimes I'm like, tell me testing one more time, I'm gonna throw you out the window. But it's true. Like it
Yeah.
really is true. You have to test the market. And again, the market changes. So what's working now and getting clear on that. But yeah, it was definitely because of our coaches that we got super clear on that. And then literally I went, again, like 6 months ago or a year ago, somebody gave me a paper and said, fill this out. And I'm like, I've done this a million times. And they said I could just say it out loud. And all of a sudden I was speaking and I was like, wow, I've said it more clearly out loud than ever I did writing it down. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, I actually I can see the person that I'm actually literally trying to sell to. And it really switched
Yeah.
everything around after years of refinement.
Yeah, this is funny though, because even like I spoke to a lot of people who eventually got it right. All those tweaking and testing, like you said yourself, they got it right. They hit like 10, 12x cash flow as they were like, okay, my job is done. This is gonna work. And guess what? A couple of
And then
weeks
everything
after
changes.
that, or a couple of months, well, I'm gonna introduce you to your new best friend. It's called ad fatigue. Welcome to the conversation. So
Exactly.
it never stops. So there's a lot of different factors that come into the equation. So my perspective on this though is like you either take the time to really master it yourself or do what Stephanie just said and hire somebody to do it for you or with
Hmm.
you. Right. So again, I'm loving this, but we're gonna move on though. You mentioned something at the beginning of the podcast about you being the team only with your husband. So it's the two of you guys just taking care of everything. And I'm curious, obviously, there is a lot of ambition and a lot of goals in terms of what this company should be. So, would you say that your goal is to eventually build out your internal teams, whether that's for marketing, some sales reps, whether that's other fulfillment teams or anything like that? Or what is the idea?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I had said before we came on, we had hired a different team other than Cole Gordon's team to help us. And our goal was actually to have a sales team and all that. It didn't work out as planned. And part of it was we were not even as clear on our avatar then and our messaging. So I mean, I can't say it was all anyone's fault. But it didn't work out. And so we're back to it being him and I. I think that at some point we would like to do that because I am not a salesperson. I'm a helper. And I know that sales and helping, it's not like they don't go hand in hand, but I get right into, I want to start fixing and like, dive into all the issues and whatever. The sales piece is, I can say honestly, it is not my forte. So I'd love to have a team that's what their expertise is. I would love to have my closers. I mean, we had trained closers. We had, at one point, we had 12 different closers. So we've had those people on our team. And I think that those are a really great asset when you have the right people that are working for you. And so, yeah, we will be there again at some point. We also started another business called Divorce Support Network. So it's actually managing other people that are also in the divorce realm. And so we have all these other professionals, but we also have these high-end people that are also in charge of it or that we're in charge of as well. So it is a different animal when you are in charge of a team versus by yourself. So again, there's the good things about it because you don't have to be in the business or like you can actually be interacting with how you want. But then you also have to manage a team and really know your SOPs and everything else to be able to teach people what you do without having to do it.
Yeah, exactly. This is another great valid point here because you talking about the SOPs. Here's my perspective though. I feel like a lot of people in your shoes or a similar position would just try and hire people prematurely and not really think about the consequences though. But let me tell you this. If you find the ability within yourself to actually go through the process yourself, learn how to do that stuff, and basically set the right standards, then yes, eventually you're going to be at a point where you can just create those SOPs that you just referenced and just give it to somebody else and be like, hey, this is what I figured out. It works. So just follow my instructions and we're going to
Mhm.
be good. Isn't that the case?
Oh yeah.
So, like, ideally, this is what everybody should do. And that goes for both the sales process, but also the marketing stuff. I'm also very unhappy when I see people not having any clue whatsoever in terms of what's going on with their marketing, what's working, what's not working. You need that kind of control. So, love it. Beautiful. Stephanie, before we wrap it up, let's also talk about the future. Um, Specifically, if you think about the short-term goals, maybe the next 6 to 12 months, what would you say really are like the biggest targets for you, the goals, the revenue, the milestones that you want to hit?
I would like us to get back to, and like I said, this is a lull for us, and we're working to get back into where we were in 2023. So if we can get back to 50K months, we would be very happy. I think that again, this roller coaster that we've been on in the past 2 years, it's stressful. And and then when we are trying to focus so much on figuring out where we veered off, where what has changed, what messaging has changed, all those kinds of things. Because again, you tweak one thing and it's like, was it this? Was it something else? And so like pulling all the different levers and trying to figure out what it is. I think that that's really where we want to be. It's that passion of how many people can we possibly help? I would like to at some point. I mean, my background was education. I would love to have a nonprofit where we help people at the younger ages, because I've now seen from 11 years old to 81 years old of people that have like ruined their lives because of bad relationships. And if we can start giving tools earlier, we can actually have people live fulfilling lives and do what they were put here to do at a much earlier age. So getting out there, getting in front of more people, getting on the stage more, being able to do more podcasts, having the time for all of that. I think that's really, and of course, having a team and being able to take more time off than, working as much as we do. We love it, but it would be nice to have more breaks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end goal though.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
100%. Now, Stephanie, when you think about really taking the company back to what it used to be and maybe even growing past that, out of everything, what would you expect is going to become the biggest challenge to make it happen?
I would say from what I've experienced before, I think it's finding the right people to work with you. I think that is, and I really, one of the things I found really important with the closers that we did have, and I find this just in general in life, if you can get people that see your mission and are excited about your mission, they're going to stick around. No matter what, because they also want you to be successful. If you have someone that's just looking to make a bunch of money with you, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, again, at least not for what we do. I think that because it's an emotional, I mean, we had hired people and they were like, it's too much emotion. I can't listen to some of the parts of the story. And I was like, well, then this isn't going to work for you. You have to be able to hear, but hear past it to be able to look for the solutions of us helping them. So I think it's really just about helping to find those people that understand, want that bigger goal, that bigger mission of helping more and more people so that you can really have them stick around for the ups and downs of sometimes figuring things out and pushing through the hard times.
Absolutely. And this is another incredible opportunity to say something else though. And this would be my advice to anybody in this position. If you think about people like sales reps, let me tell you this. Skill is something that you can work on, but the alignment that you're talking about, you can either find it or not.
Hmm.
So when it comes to delegation and being ready to create a kind of ecosystem that lets you let other people join you, you got to think about whether this is the kind of character and personality that I can see myself working with.
Yeah.
If they need a little bit of work, we can work with that. But if it's not a fit, there's nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah.
So another great point. Stephanie, there is so many golden nuggets that you just threw at us throughout the conversation. I really hope that everybody listening was actually listening. If you weren't, just go back, listen again. Great conversation, though. At this point, I'm going to say thank you for taking the time, sharing the story with me and with our audience. I really appreciate that. If anybody from the listeners would like to get in touch, perhaps one day even work with you, how to go about it?
The best thing to do is to go to beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com or just look up Stephanie McPhail and you can find all my stuff on Google. You can follow us on all the different social medias. You can even send me an email, stephanie@beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com, and I'd be more than happy to reach back out and hop on a call and see if we can come up with a plan for you.
Love it. Beautiful. Again, thank you. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scale our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.